with another live episode of Lead Gen and Conversion Mastery. And we're going live in the Lead Gen and Conversion Mastery group. Some of you might be listening to this later on our podcast, but we're super excited. We're going to be talking about the ultimate guide to turning your CRM into a lead gen and conversion machine. And one of the things I love working with Brian is not only has he had tremendous success in real estate, both running a teamage within his brokerage and running a successful brokerage, but he also is part owner of a really, really successful technology and systems integration company called Osiris. And him and I have worked together on a lot of projects. Him and I are both serial entrepreneurs, if you will, coming from real estate and then building other businesses outside of it. And so we've worked on a ton of fun projects together. One of them is turning your CRM into a lead generation, lead conversion machine. And every team does this a little bit differently, right? But what we do is we have general guidelines that we want to share with you that are step-by-step process on how to maximize your database to make sure you're getting the most appointments and the most revenue out of it, and not have your CRM just be a junk box or just be a storage bin where your leads are just going dead. And so we have this document that we're going to share with you. Brian, if it's cool with you, I'm going to just dive into the steps here and we can rock and roll. So Brian, so first step we have here, and this is what I call the boring stuff, or the stuff that's not sexy but so important, right? Because it's like the foundation. And also, I see agents will come to us, and I know that agents that you coach, they'll be in business for 10, 20 years sometimes, and they won't have an organized, staged out database, and then your jaw just drops sometimes thinking about how many referrals and past clients and deals are being lost simply because their database is not organized. So maybe just talk to us a little bit about your recommendation on organizing your database, the importance of staging status, lead status, staging and triggering, kind of that whole process, and why it's, even though it's not sexy, why it's so important. So,
I'm going to start with a concept, and you and I didn't even talk about this in the green room, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Success is boring is the concept I want to introduce here, because the second I'm standing in front of a group of people and I say, guys, what we're going to talk about today is database management, the room falls asleep. Like no one's ever signed up for a class that says, how do I manage some data? There are probably people, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. So here's the thing. I was talking to an agent actually prior to this call, and I said, look, sometimes you got to spend part of your day doing the things you don't like so you can spend the rest of your day doing the things that you love and make money. And that's what database management is about. So, step one, organize your stage and leads. So here's what I see the majority of databases look like. And it's basically, we take a bunch of leads and we throw them in there and hope someday that we can find them. That's the worst case scenario. Yeah. Next step, maybe they have some of them staged, some of them don't, and people get lazy. And actually, lazy is not even the right word. I think what happens is we do the things that excite us. We do the things that are right in front of us. Hey, I got to go show a house. I'll do that. Hey, I got to go to a listing appointment. I'll go do that. And then after I show the house, or after I go to the listing appointment, you know what the very first thing I should do is update my database. Something happened from that, and most people don't. So for me, it's very simple. I just want stages, and stages to me are in direct correlation to time frame. So a lead is basically something new that comes into my system, right? Brand new person, haven't spoken to them, they're a lead. Once I've spoken to somebody, they should never, ever, ever be a lead again in my mind. Why? Because I've spoken to them and they've given me information. I never want to buy a house. I want to buy a house in 6 months. I want to sell a house in 6 months. Whatever they tell me, I can now disposition them. If you fail to disposition leads, again, I just like to look at it as a big bowl of leads. And you're going, well, man, nope. You're just kind of pulling stuff out and hoping that somebody does something. And I can tell you this, I didn't always have the best database. As I sit here and say this, we all make mistakes.
Same here.
I don't know about you, Isaiah, but this is the conversation that I want to avoid, and maybe that's why you're going there too. Hey, Isaiah, it's Brian. I'm just checking in. Oh, yeah, Brian, really appreciate you following up. I bought a house last week.
Exactly. That happened way too many times if you don't have this right.
Congratulations. I mean, what else are you going to say? It's
Yeah,
not their
exactly.
fault.
So I think this is where for our tactical people listening here, like if you look at lead sources, how do you do your stages so that doesn't happen? So like you got your lead sources, like what stages do you recommend? I know that like there's a lot, you can get really detailed with, I see some people, they have 17 or 20 different stages, right? In their CRM, and it's like impossible to manage, right? It's like, who is going to like, and the intention was good, right? It's like, oh, well, I just need to have something for every single little circumstance. What's your recommendation, just as a general rule, for what stages you should have?
Simple is more powerful than complex is my first rule. And those of you who are running a team, we have team leaders, we have individual agents. Team leaders have this tendency to try and get everything and all these little minute things. Most people who are real estate agents didn't say, what would I like to do? I'd like to be a real estate agent so I can learn a whole bunch of tech and manage a whole bunch of data. No one's ever said that as a real estate agent. So keep it simple. I got someone dogged on me for saying this, but I still believe it's true. The best system is the system that works. Well, the best system that works is the simplest system. So to answer your question, I have 4 buyer stages, 4 seller stages, A, B, C, D, and they're all time. They're just A, right? 0 to 90 is A, 91 to 180 is, those are my 4 stages. So there's 8 stages there.
Nice.
Hot prospect to me is somebody who I'm actively out showing property to. On the buy side, hot prospect is someone who I've got a listing appointment with. And then we'll find out whether they become actual client or not. And then you need, your stages inside of that. So my buyer stages are hot prospect, A, B, C, D. I do have a closed or past client stage. And then the sell side, A, B, C, D. And then I do have listed, so in other words, we actually have the house listed. And then when something goes under contract, we use the term pending. Those are the only stages you need, in my opinion, with the exception of if you run a pond. I actually have a stage that's called pond. When I throw someone in the pond, I change their stage to pond. And that's because I want people to know that this is in the pond. If I pull that person back out of the pond, they need to be dispositioned A, B, C, D, hot prospects. So those are really all the stages I think you need. If you've got, going to buy in 90 days, going to buy in 98 days, going to buy in 103 days. I mean, first of all, everything is generalized. Think about you as a consumer. Hey, when are you going to buy a car? Sometime in the next 6 months, I need to buy a car. Okay, so no one, the car salesman didn't write down, Brian's going to buy a car in 173 days, and therefore I'm going to call him. And that's not how it works. And I didn't know. I might buy a car next week, next month, 3 months, 6 months. I don't know, but it's that generality. And here's the whole purpose of all of this, and I'll stop talking here in a second. The whole purpose behind all of this is, when do I follow up with this person? Plain and simple. That's the purpose of the stage. When do I follow up with them? Because every single day, I want to make sure that I'm calling the people that I'm supposed to call. All of my A's I call every 7 days. All of my B's every 21 days. C's are 45 and D's are 60. So
that's
again,
powerful to have that cadence, because you can lose so many deals. Yeah, you lose so many deals if you don't have that cadence.
Yes.
Set up. That's powerful. And I think that, if I think about, the system as I hear your system, and ours is very similar. I think about how much money I lost before I actually took the time to learn this, and it's almost like disgusting, actually. Like, so for those of you that are like, again, not, you're like, oh, big deal. No, like, arguably, this is one of the most important things you can do for your sales marketing plan, because it's the foundation of everything. Here's why. If you don't have this done the right way, how are you going to do speedy lead campaigns? How are you going to do remarketing campaigns? How are you going to do automated follow-up? How are you going to do AI texting? All this stuff we're going to talk about in a minute. You can't do any of it if this is not done the right way, or do it well. And that kind of leads us to step number 2, is the speed to lead campaigns and a cool technology that we use called CallBridge. I know other people call it something different, but talk to us about what that's done for your business, Brian, having your speed to lead set up properly in your CRM.
Well, speed to lead is so critical, because, and it's more critical today than it's ever been, in my opinion, by the way, But it's so critical because if you don't, this is the formula: the right person, the right time, the right conversation. Okay.
Yeah.
Speed to lead is about the right time. And I want, ultimately, if you do not have a speed to lead system, here's what happens. Okay, I'm sitting in front of my computer, I fill out the form, great. And then my wife says, "Hey, we're gonna go to dinner." Bam, I'm out the door, I'm going to dinner. 5 minutes after I do that. So this is old data, but it's from 2010. But in 2010, and I can't imagine it's got better. As a matter of fact, it's had to have gotten worse. It was a 310% higher conversion if you called the person the first 5 minutes.
That's insane.
That's from 2010, guys. So imagine how that hasn't gotten better. That's got to be significantly higher now. I just haven't seen a new. I just haven't seen anything new.
And that's why I love the call bridge technology, or like, there's tools like it where it's calling the lead automatically and calling your agents automatically. So like the calling is instant. And we've been having tremendous success since we've done the call bridge. It's made a huge difference. I know a lot of people are like, well, what if I can't take the call right now? And like, they'll shut it off because like it's inconvenient to take the call all the time. And I'm like, why would you, like, that's an inconvenience that you want to deal with. The inconvenience you don't want to deal with is not being able to get a hold of the person, losing money in your database. So like, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this is a whole other webinar, right?
Like, each one of these can be their own webinar. Each one of these stuff.
What I heard was manage your freaking schedule, manage yourself. It's what I heard as you said that.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to say to people: when you're off, be off. When you're on, be on.
Yeah.
And understand. So, am I taking phone calls? Because I have multiple businesses, just like it. Am I taking phone calls 24 hours a day? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So, when you're off, be off. When you're on, turn on the freaking call bridge so that you answer the call, and then you got,
then it'll be sitting in your inbox if you don't answer it. It'll sit there telling you to call them back if you don't answer it, right? So like, I've heard so many people not sign up to this particular piece of technology or not activate it with some of our clients because of this issue, right? So that's what I wanted to speak to. I love that. So if I'm hearing you time block, don't feel like you gotta, be working or don't be working, and let the cards fall how they do and follow up with people. But don't not use the technology because you don't want to take a call once in a while. So,
and here's a funny conversation. Have that discussion with significant others in your life too. So in other words, if you're going to answer a phone call at 7:00 at night, and I'm not here to say what, but if you have a significant other, make sure that's okay with them. Because I can tell you this: you screw up one part of your life, it screws up the other part of your life. So have open and honest conversations, set that up, and then work when you're working and play when you're playing.
That's really powerful. That's powerful. Step 3, and everyone's cadence for like speed to lead and long-term nurture is different. Like you hear the 33 touch, right? You hear different cadences. And I think it's important for the group, while there is a formula that needs to be tweaked over time, the general rule here is just to make sure that you have frequent follow-up at a high frequency in the first 10 to 15 days or so. And then you have a long-term nurture after that. And that's the message. So if you're like, whether it's 10 by 10 or 10 by 15 or 3 by 20, whatever ends up being, I think that's important. But Brian, walk through a little bit about, in your mind, like what that cadence looks like in the first 10 to 15 days, and then what your long-term nurture looks like if they don't respond or whatever it may be.
Yeah. So we want to see basically, and let me define a reach out before we do that, because I think that's an important thing. I don't consider email a reach out. I know that you guys use it. By the way, I use it. And every single one of my new leads gets an email. I just didn't write it any time in the last 5 years. It just goes out automatically. So my agents don't get credit for what my CRM does automatically. That's just
true that.
So don't tell me that you sent an email, because of course you didn't. The system sent it for you. So I'm not talking about an email. What I am talking about is a text message, a phone call, or a video text. I basically run different versions of those all throughout. Now, one of the things we've been doing, and I think this is an important thing to look at, is, and we talked about this in our last episode, 10 years ago when I called people, I didn't want them to know that I was a real estate agent. Today, I want
Yep.
people to know I'm a real estate agent, not selling them insurance for a car they don't own and a student loan they never had, all that kind of garbage, all the lists that we get on. We're actually a higher status than those people today. Thank God
Yeah.
we're not at the bottom of the barrel. So I want to let them know who I am. So I can send them a text message or a video text before I call them. Hey, Isaiah, it's Brian Curtis. I'm going to reach out. You made an inquiry through my website, and I'm just going to give you a call here in a second to see how we can help. Send that text message. 10 seconds later, I'm dialing the phone. That's one approach. Double dials is another thing that we've found is very effective. I've actually heard people say triple dial. Full disclosure, I've never triple dialed. But a double dial is I'm going to dial and just
Yeah.
have that spin you're going to dial. When the person doesn't pick up, you immediately hang up and you're going to dial again. It creates a sense of urgency. And the other thing it does is so far, and I'm not saying this isn't going to change, so far the spammers don't seem to be double dialing.
Right.
So they're using a dialer that's not double dialing. So eventually that'll probably change. But right now, that actually tells the client, hey, by the way, I'm a real person. I'm not a computer sitting someplace, or I'm not a guy sitting in a call center with 10,000 other people. And then basically, I want 30 touches in 15 days. And I do take, 30 touches, and I do take a couple of days off in there. I think I take off day 4 and day 8 to just give them a break in case there was something going on. I want everyone to think about this. Also, after that 15 days, I throw them in a pond that anyone can grab them. The reason that's so important is there's a good chance that they block my phone number. If I've reached out to somebody 30 freaking times and they've not responded, there's a chance they hit block. And you just need to understand that. That's the reality. That function didn't exist 4 years ago. Now it does. I use it. I'm going to get a lot of other people who are listening to this use it. It's not a bad thing. It's just you need to understand it's a thing, and therefore you need to make adjustments for it.
Yeah, I love that. A couple things that we're in the process of transforming to do this, but we're already seeing really big breakthroughs in how we're managing our technology. And I actually got this from a TED Talk. I'm trying to remember her name, but she specializes in systems and integrations in giant corporate companies. And one of the things she talked about, it just kind of sat me back, and we've been integrating this into our company. She goes, you got to stop seeing technology and AI as this thing that's there. What you do is you have to start managing it and working with it as if it's an extension of your business, as if it's an employee. And it doesn't matter if it's AI, but you try to have a relationship with it like you would a partner or an employee. And it really hit me, because then she said, think about how you would treat your technology and treat your AI differently, and the power if you started treating it like you actually treat your work relationships. Yeah. You wouldn't neglect it. You wouldn't call it a piece of trash. You wouldn't do all these different things, right? And it just changed the psychology to how we see technology, and also how we track its usage. So we actually gave our technology a name. That's where the name Ren came from, is we actually call our technology Ren. And we hold Ren accountable to results. And we work with Ren, our technology, to meet those results just like we would a sales agent, or just like we would a support agent, where we give it the time and attention that it deserves with a weekly sit down. We give it updates and we give it recommendations just like we would an employee. And what I kind of heard you talk about, talking about how, your sales agents don't get credit for things your CRM and your technology is doing, that kind of triggered that thought, because ours don't either, right?
Yeah, it's not their job.
We actually have it as an assistant to our agent, and actually position it as like a fun competition to see who can get better results. And it's really kind of been fun since we've seen Ren or any technology that we're working with as an employee, instead of just a CRM, or instead of just marketing automation. And I think it'd be a fun, that's another fun webinar that we can do some other days, is how to get better user adoption with your technology. But that kind of triggered that thought. So
Yeah. And here's what I heard real quick is give it a job and don't expect it to do a different job. That's the biggest thing I see with business is they expect the technology to replace them. And I'm going
yeah,
to say this, you do not want that to happen because the second that happens, that's called unemployment.
that's so true. That's so true. Or they buy it, they set it up, and they don't really define what they think it should be or shouldn't be doing and manage to that definition. They just have this idea and they set something up and they just expect it to just work, like set it, forget it. That's not how anything works. It's not
so
how anything
true.
works.
We do that sometimes with employees, though, right? I've seen people do that. I hired the guy. He wasn't very good. Well, did you train him?
That's a really good point. He doesn't know how to do everything. What do you mean? Like he's not perfect. What do you mean? That's really good. I think that's a good place to end. We'll pick up on step number 4, making sure you have an integrated dialer and how to make sure you're maximizing your dialer. There's a lot going on with dialers right now in the industry. So that's going to be a fun conversation to have. Brian, any last thoughts here before we wrap it up for today?
Yeah, I'll just finish with this thought. Your database is your business. If you do not have a database and then follow that up with you do not have a good database, you don't have a business, and then B, you don't have a good business because you cannot scale without that database management. Again, it's one of the wheels that it's part of one of the pieces of the pie in my real estate wheel, if you will. And it's just as important as lead gen. It's just as important as appointments, just important as scripts and dialogues. And people ignore it because they're like, oh, it's just my database. Your database is your business. And if you can adopt that philosophy, then it'll change how you do things, and it will really push you to the next level if you start looking at your database as your business.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. And, this is something that I don't think is talked enough about in our industry. And it's a long-term conversation that we can save for next Wednesday, but because it takes a long-term vision. But someday you might want to sell your book of business. Or sell your business. And like being a person that's bought other businesses before, partnered with other people, and I know you have too, Brian, is the first thing you look at is their database. The first thing you look at is their number one asset. And so I want you to really think about that. I want you to fast forward 5 years from now and 10 years from now. And let's say that you wanted to put your business up for sale or sell your database because you're done, or maybe you just want to get out of the industry, or maybe you want to do something else. I promise you'll get a lot more for your business. And then if you don't pay attention to it. One of our clients just went through a whole issue because their partners separated and they had to value their database. Their database got valued because they did a good job managing it. An outside person came in and valued their database alone at over $1 million.
Nice.
Meaning what they said is, hey, look, if you gave this database to another real estate team and they continue to work it, they'll easily generate $1 million in commissions over an extended period of time. And you don't have to pay for those leads because they're already here, and they valued the database well over $1 million. And so I want you guys to really think about the conversation that we're having here when we're talking about a database. And I think that'd be a fun conversation to have. We'll pick up on that conversation. We'll pick up on that, a different day. And so, Brian, thank you for your contribution as always. For our listeners that are going to be listening to our podcast, if you're not connected with Brian, look him up on social media. Also, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast or if you're watching us live, we appreciate your support. If you want this checklist, just type in the word CRM checklist in the comments, and then we'll make sure our team gets you this checklist that's going out to you. And with that, we guys hope you have an awesome rest of your day and rest of your week. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.